and we're the most wanted cunts in the country. But don't you worry. Daddy's home.
Daddy's home, and that is really how we kick off Season 2 of The Boys. Before we get into it, though, please like the video, share it with your friends on social media sites, and consider subscribing to the channel, as it's the best way for a new creator like myself on YouTube to gain traction within the algorithm and reach a wider audience. And now, on to the video. So let's talk about Episode 1 of Season 2 of The Boys, The Big Ride. I have to tell you, particularly if you saw my video about the Eric Kripke interview regarding his plans for the season, I was really concerned about what was going to be happening in Season 2 of The Boys. There were a lot of signs out there pointing to the high probability of this show going ultra nasty woke, Kathleen Kennedy levels of woke. If you've forgotten about that interview, let's see one of the clips right now.
Ultimately, the most dangerous people are like the white dudes standing next to you.
So what was good and what was bad going into this episode? Well, I had been prepped for this thing to go ultra woke based on that interview that Kripke gave. And I walked into this episode fully expecting to despise it, because I was sure and absolutely certain, based on what the creator said, that this was going to be among the most woke seasons of television we had ever seen on a screen, big or small. Imagine my surprise when it felt more like a parody of wokeness rather than the uber woke exposition of SJW politics that we were told to expect. I'm still reeling, and I'm uncertain as to which direction it's really intending to go, because based on the first 3 episodes, although we're only going to talk about episode 1 in this video, this isn't a woke show. If anything, it's decided to parody wokeness. Acting credits in this for episode 1 were really good. I personally adore the performance of Giancarlo Esposito. You may remember him from a number of recent television shows, such as The Mandalorian, where he plays the Moff, and we get him here as the head of Vought. The guy is an absolute corporate mercenary. He commands the screen when he's in it, even overshadowing Homelander, which is something that's really damn hard to do. And I'm impressed. Giancarlo Esposito is an actor whom I always enjoy his performances, and he does not disappoint in Season 2 of The Boys. Now, let's talk about Ashley. Ashley, you may remember, is the flunky of Madeline from Season 1. She has now been promoted at Homelander's suggestion to handling the 7. And based on what we've seen so far, the only thing I could refer to Ashley as is, frankly, she is the stand-in for Kathleen Kennedy. Let's take a quick look, and hopefully you'll see what I'm talking about here.
It's a blind spot, right?
A differently abled member of the 7. Brutal pull through the roof with millennials. Inclusion's a big priority to them right now.
Amazing.
And then I think we find an ethnic or female, or fingers crossed, an ethnic female to replace the deep, and we're golden.
So who can see Ashley without thinking about this picture from one of the brightest moments of Star Wars history? So from here on out, throughout this entire season, Ashley is going to be referred to as Kathleen Kennedy. Because, well, this is why. So who else do we have in kind of a new role for this season? Well, we do absolutely get to see Stormfront. Now, Stormfront gets introduced to us as a shaved head millennial from Portland. And boy, does she exemplify quite a few of those stereotypes in episode 1. We get to see a bit more out of her and some of her quirks in later episodes, but what we see immediately from this girl is that she's something really new and different to the Seven. And not really in a bad way, because they do have her portrayed as a caricature, which is quite interesting to me. And I'm okay with it. Her introduction here in episode 1 is honestly pretty solid. I don't have any issues with it. And the actress does a good job working with what's there. It gives me a believable pitch, and I'm all right with it. And I'm really looking forward to seeing where it goes. All right, now that we've kind of hit sort of the new major players that we're seeing in this season, let's go through the plot beats of the episode. So we open the episode with some pretty serious action. Esposito is negotiating getting the Vought superheroes into the military, going through specifics about how they're going to apply to the chain of command, what sort of top secret classifications they're going to have, and how the relationship's going to work overall. Positioned next to this is, of course, Black Noir taking out the soup terrorists that we saw at the end of season 1. And it is brutal, it is bloody, it is nasty, and you really, really get to see some powers exhibited. One of the things that I wanted from the Umbrella Academy that we didn't get, but we are very much seeing in The Boys, is the true use of the powers. And I really like that. The cinematography is solid. I love how the scene plays out. And you really get to see that Black Noir is an absolute badass, which is cool because we really didn't get to see, well, anything of him during season 1. After that initial opening sequence of that violence and that gore, we cut over to Translucent's funeral. As you're going to recall from season 1, Translucent was killed by the boys early on in the season. So other than him being an absolute asshole, you didn't really learn a lot about him. And in true Homelander fashion, he is held up almost as a martyr in his death, and they blame his death on one of the super terrorists, which of course is the setup to a lot of what we're going to get in this season. The super terrorists are being presented to the public as a threat, and of course this was all set up largely by Homelander, which makes sense. He's got an agenda he's trying to fill. And Starlight is participating in the funeral because she's got to play her role as a loyal member of the Seven. Get a little bit of an interview with these two outside, and you can see that Starlight's not terribly comfortable, and Homelander is, of course, Homelander.
Help you get back into the Seven.
So Deep's met this guy, Eagle Archer, who bailed him out of jail after he went on a bender and is accused of hitting rock bottom, which frankly is probably pretty goddamn close to the truth. And in order to help him get back into the Seven, as is offered here, they are indoctrinating him into what is, well, frankly, it's Scientology. And the way that they're framing this church throughout the season appears to be really that, it very much is an alternate Scientology, and they're not really showing it in particularly a good light. And this is definitely a shot at Hollywood. It's a shot at just the weirdness that's around there. And I like this inclusion here because it's just yet another pillory of the Hollywood culture, which, again, not remotely what I was expecting from this season. And in a good way. All right, moving forward. So Homelander's released a bunch of super villains or super terrorists into the world, and the boys discover one of them, who we ultimately find out is actually Kimiko's brother, which makes for some really interesting interplay over the next few episodes that we're going to get to see here pretty soon. But As a result of this, they know that they have got to take some action. They've got to out-vought. Huey is working with Annie/Starlight throughout to try to get a sample of Compound V out there in order to really break the story that this is, the superheroes were made, not born. And they've blackmailed somebody that she used to know when they were kids in order to acquire some Compound V that they can then release to the press. And in the meantime, the boys have reached back out to Butcher's contact, who's the deputy director of the CIA, and they go to meet her, and, well, she gets assassinated.
Ma'am, your nose.
Dude! That is the blood and gore that we all love the boys for right there. And it's pretty damn significant, too, because she was working on exposing Vought as well, and some unknown soup just assassinated her. Crazy fucking scene. I loved it. I'm happy with it. Give me more. Oh, spoiler. They do. Towards the end of the episode, we get introduced to one final new character who, at least in the episodes I've seen so far, plays a pretty ancillary role, sort of commenting from the sidelines, and that's this Congresswoman Newman. I am getting from her a really, really serious Tulsi Gabbard vibe. I don't know if that was the inspiration for this character, but I'm big time getting that sort of feeling out of her. And, as you look at these two, I think perhaps you can see why I'm getting that feeling. I suspect that Tulsi's going to play a significantly increasing role, at least of importance, if not her screen time, as we go throughout the season. Although, hey, we still got 7 more episodes to drop, so that remains to be seen. Interested to see where they go with her. Tulsi could be a really interesting character through the season. I guess we'll see. Now, after we get to see Tulsi give her little commentary here, there's a really neat kind of vying of the wills for supremacy between Esposito and Homelander, which is a really interesting power play within Vought to see who's really in control here. This brings us really to what's mainly our final scene of the episode, where, of course, Daddy's home.
And we're the most wanted cunts in the country. But don't you worry. Daddy's home.
Good solid close to the episode. Karl Urban in all his glory as Billy Butcher is back. So, episode 1 of season 2 defied my expectations. It is a solid effort at television. It is, if anything, a parody of wokeness, and I'm looking forward to more. Thank you for watching the video to the end here, and I do very much appreciate that you've stopped by the channel. Please don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends on social media, and please consider subscribing to the channel, as that's the best way to help a smaller creator like myself gain traction within the algorithm and reach a wider audience of folks. Thanks, and we'll catch you on the next video.